TV Toastmasters Advanced Club number 9523 is open. Good morning to our television audience. Good morning to our members here in the studio today. And good morning to our guest. Today we have two guests, Veronica Gibson, which is an ATM-SCL. She'll be an evaluator today. And actually, Veronica Gibson has joined our club this morning, so we have a new member. We also have a gentleman here, and I'm going to have to read today because I left my glasses at home. We have a gentleman here. Doug Swisher is a DTM from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And Doug is president of Cascade Engineering Toastmasters and also the chairman of his club's fall conference. Let's welcome Doug. Again, we have all the members here today. We have a real good group. Again, good morning, Cincinnati. There was a thing that came to me this morning when I was driving in, because you always want to talk about something, and there's a lady on TV, I can't remember her name right now, but she always talks. And my wife listens to this lady, and I get up in the morning, my wife, we have more than one TV. So my wife will have her on the TV in the bedroom, she'll have her on the TV in the kitchen, and no matter where I go, I can't get her away from this lady. And she's just evidently a smart lady, intelligent lady, and all that, but she always talks about how it's not me, and it's not you. It's not about me. And her whole theme is it's not about me. But everything she says is either I or me. So there's a phrase that people use. They say, there is not an I in team. And everybody's probably heard that. There's no I in team. I think she's kind of carried that on to the point where there's not an I in team. There's only an E for me. I'd like to welcome at this time our Toastmaster, which is a CTM-CL, Laura Lee Gayfield. If you'd welcome her.
Thank you, Gordon. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and those of you watching at home this evening. We have a wonderful presentation lined up for you today, so let's have a great time at our first Toastmaster meeting of 2008. So Happy New Year, everybody. Haven't seen our fellow members and guests much at all this year. An interesting part of Toastmasters is learning how to think on your feet. Have you ever been in a meeting and you're called on and your brilliant idea that you had your hand up for just flew out your brain? Tabletopics will help you to overcome the jitters that you get on those on-the-spot questions and answers, whether you're the one asking the question or the one doing the answer. So to give us some practice today, and so you can watch us at home as to how we do this, I'm going to introduce our Tabletopics master today, Darren Henderson. Darren.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. I was trying to think of an interesting topic for today's Table Topics, and I looked at the television and it hit me. I saw it. The message was right in front of me. Reality television. 5 years ago, reality television was virtually non-existent. Now, if you turn on the television, it seems that every other show is a reality television show. So today, as I call you up, I'm going to give you the name of a reality television show. And if you know what that show is, you can tell us a little bit about the show and what you think of it. But what I really hope is that you won't know what that show is about, and at that point you can use your creativity to tell us what you think it may be about or what maybe you'd like to see it be about. So my first volunteer for today will be our esteemed president, Gordon Kelly. And Gordon, the show I'd like you to talk about is a show called Miami Inc.
Miami Inc. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I've got the wrong one, but Miami Inc. is a show on TV. I actually like this show, and it's about this lady out in, Miami, but there's also one out in L.A. Inc., I think, too. But Miami, and what she does is she's into tattoos, and her thing is to tattoo people, and it's not really just a tattoo. It's kind of unfair to call it a tattoo because in their mind, in these people's minds that do this artwork, it really is art. And that's art from her perspective, and typically it's art from the perspective of the person that's having this tattoo put on their body. I personally don't have a tattoo, and over the years, working in the kind of business I work in, I don't remember ever seeing anyone with a tattoo. And I don't have anything against tattoos. Actually, I like tattoos. I went to down to where Elvis is from and went in to see Graceland about 4 years ago. And while I was in there, my wife was out shopping. I was across the road doing something. But they had these $5 tattoos that you put on. They stay on like 7 days. And my wife just hates tattoos. So I went over there while she was shopping, and I had the big the hound dog put on my shoulder. And when she came back, it was like she thought it was real, and she was not happy with the tattoo. But tattoos, I think tattoos are great. I on men and women personally, but I don't have one. Most of the people I work around don't seem to have them unless they have them where they're hid and you can't see them. So Miami Ink. is actually a popular show. It's actually done, because it is in Miami, it's always sunny, and everybody always looks like they're having a pretty good time. Although some of those people go in there, and I know people that have, I guess you can catch hepatitis. I know years ago that was the case, and it sounds like even today that's the case. So while I like tattoos, I think they look better on women than they do men. Women probably think they look better on men than they do women. I don't have one. Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master.
Thanks, Gordon. And if Gordon did a great job of telling us what that show is about, but if he didn't, I've also got a little write-up that I'll tell you a little bit more about the show if the person coming up doesn't really know much about it. Next, I'd like to bring up Sheila Mudd Baker. Sheila, the name of the show I'd like you to talk about is a show called Hogan Knows Best.
Oh my. Well, it has to be Hulk Hogan. Who else would Hogan be? So that is about how much I know. I know that Hulk Hogan has children who are pretty grown up, and he has long blonde hair, and he has a wife. And I have switched channels right past him to look at it. So it probably is a much more modern version of Father Knows Best, except I don't think his wife wears pearls, and he hardly ever wears a suit. So if I were going to be making a show called Hogan Knows Best, I probably would make this an advice show where people would call in or send him letters, and Hulk Hogan would answer the questions in his Hulk Hoganish, wrestlerish kind of way. And that's the way the show should be. Now, what the show really is, not even a clue. So, Hogan Knows Best. The only thing I can say is I know what it should be, and maybe he should contact me and I'll tell him what he should be doing next.
Good job, Sheila. It's basically a show about Hulk Hogan's life, so you had it right on the bucket. And we'll do one more. I'd like to bring up Linda Ketchum. Linda, once again, I've never seen this show or heard of it, but I'd like you to talk about a show called Brat Camp.
Brat Camp. I would imagine that this is a show about a boot camp type show for children, where they take children with problems and train them and teach them to be better citizens and better kids. But I'm going to take this a step further. I don't watch American Idol, Lost, any of those type reality shows. And I used to be extremely proud of the fact that I didn't watch reality TV. And then it dawned on me that my favorite channel is HGTV. And all I watch is reality TV. I watch the Flip This House, I watch all the home decorating programs, and that's all I watch. I don't like regular TV. So I had to give up my self-righteous feeling about being so good about not watching reality TV and admit I watch it all the time. It's my favorite. Mr. Tabletopics.
Thank you. Once again, you're right on. The Brat Camp is a reality TV show about a group of misbehaving teenagers who are sent away to a special camp located in the Utah desert. Well, I think you all should give yourself a hand because you know a lot more about reality television than I did. So very good job. Madam Toastmaster?
Thank you, Darren. What an interesting topic for us today. And actually, think about it, we are all reality TV show people because we're on TV Toastmasters. So Linda, not only do you actually watch reality TV, you'll have to fess up that you participate in reality TV as well. And now we will have our speakers. We have 4 great speakers coming up doing 4 different presentations and they all have different levels of experience that they will share with us today. Our first speaker will be doing part of the Successful Club series, and his speech title, is Talking Up Toastmasters and Closing the Deal by Steve Ahrenholz. Steve Ahrenholz, we look forward to your Talk Up Toastmasters and Close the Deal. Steve.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, our honored guests, and our audience at home. Perhaps you've heard the phrase that we're all salespeople in some respect. I never like it when I hear that because I don't think of myself as a salesperson. But if the truth is acknowledged, anytime we promote something that we believe in strongly, we're selling whatever that is. Think about the last time you tried to convince someone to do something. Maybe it was a coworker or a friend or a spouse. Maybe you had to engage in a sales pitch to yourself for something. So, what about Toastmasters? Talk Up Toastmasters. What is the deal? I want to talk to you about some aspects of selling so that we can promote or sell our product, which is Toastmasters. Toastmasters is known for the impact that it has upon its members' lives. Toastmasters meetings are a good example of meetings that are conducted in a punctual manner and begin and end on time. Excellent meetings bring in new members, new ideas, and new enthusiasm. TV Toastmasters has its meetings broadcast to the community on cable access television. Our meetings are pre-planned, well-organized, participants are prepared and arrive on time, and they eagerly fulfill their duties in a well-paced program. Well, I've given you a handout today, and you can follow along with me. It has an acronym. Of course, I work for the government, so acronyms are a big deal with us. And I'm going to take you through CLOSE. We're going to talk up Toastmasters and close the deal. And what does the C stand for? Cultivate the need to do, be, or have more. By learning valuable communication and leadership skills and interacting in a warm, friendly, encouraging environment, members can improve their listening, thinking, and speaking skills. If you are seeking a positive, supportive group of people, Toastmasters is it. They can increase their self-esteem through active participation in personal development. Coincidentally, people who participate in Toastmasters also obtain an expanded version of the role communication and leadership plays in their personal, professional, and social lives. Then there's L. Listen to the guests' reasons for attending. People appreciate it when you listen to them. Listen more than you talk and try to discover why it is that they attended this meeting. How can Toastmasters fulfill the need that they're seeking to fill? Maybe you can identify some segments of the Toastmasters meeting or the open house that specifically speak to what they're looking for. For example, when a speaker is giving their presentation, we learn to listen without interruption. If we're going to be doing Tabletopics, which you just saw, you have to listen to the question that's given so that you can prepare your response as you come up to the lectern. If you're an evaluator, you have to listen carefully to the presentation because you're going to be providing feedback back to that individual on how they did with their presentation. And if you happen to be a general evaluator, you have to listen doubly well because not only are you going to evaluate the evaluators, you're also going to give an evaluation on the overall conduct of the meeting. Well, you've given them several reasons why they want to come and join Toastmasters, but what happens if there is an objection? Well, objections and reservations are not a reason to despair. Do not worry, they are a request for more information. Be thankful. They are asking you about the WIFM. What's in it for me? There are probably two objections that you're going to run into. One of them would be cost. And Toastmasters is an extremely cost-effective program, self-paced and very user-friendly. Many companies are now using Toastmasters for their training because it's much less expensive than sending their staff to one-time training seminars, which may also be out of town. In fact, on your handout that I gave you today, on the back side, I have included some information that I picked up at the last district conference, giving you some figures for comparison to publicly available training courses by one of the associations that deals with communication and leadership. Another objection that you may run into is time. Now, as Toastmasters, we all have more choices than we have time to spend on them. But for TV Toastmasters, you're basically looking at about 4 hours a month when we have our meeting, the second Saturday of each month. When you're actually participating in a Toastmasters meeting, actually it's the third Saturday of each month. Thank you. And then however much time you want to devote to capturing your passion and conveying it to your audience. So it is up to you as to what level of involvement you want to have. Then we have the S, which is stories. Share the success stories of others, and your own if you have some to share. Toastmasters was started in 1924 by Ralph Smedley at a YMCA in California. 84 years later, Toastmasters has over 300,000 members in 90 countries, and it's still growing. A Toastmasters Club is the only organization that specializes in you. That's right. The focus of a Toastmasters Club is you. Now, we have a few examples that we get from our club members. Our club president, Gordon, routinely tells us how impressed he is with the skills that Toastmasters has given him as far as conducting meetings and interacting with clients. Another one of our members, Carol, has told us that she's learned you cannot have the whole story before someone is finished speaking. When you join a Toastmasters Club, you discover you're not alone. You have an opportunity to interact with others who share your concerns and goals. A story for myself that I've learned is that when you want to respond to someone, you have to listen, think, and then speak. Not speak, listen, and then think, which is what we often wind up doing. And finally, the E is for emphasize. We need to emphasize the need, benefits, and what to expect. And then what we need to do is ask our guests to join. There's 4 benefits that they will immediately experience. They'll start improving their speaking abilities. They have numerous opportunities for leadership development, and leadership takes all forms. There are different styles. You need to learn what's right for yourself. Leadership isn't having all the answers, but it's working through and with others to get the answer. Better social skills. It's amazing how Toastmasters can help you in your interpersonal communication as well as communication for work. And finally, I think one of the greatest benefits is improved self-esteem. Public speaking ranks among people's top fears. Participation in Toastmasters will help build self-confidence. When you join today, you will get a Toastmasters new member kit within a week. Your name will also be added to the mailing list for Toastmasters magazine. You can start participating immediately in your club. Participate in Tabletopics. Maybe you want to be a timer or grammarian. Your enthusiasm about the program is what's going to sell Toastmasters, and it's the strongest selling point of all. What I want to encourage you to do is, when we have our open house on February 9th, share your perspective on Toastmasters with our guests that are there. and then ask them to join. Talk up Toastmasters and close the deal. Madam Toastmaster?
Part of being a successful club is participating as a club in other events that are available to Toastmaster members and the general public throughout the year. There's a lot of exciting events going on where you do not have to be a Toastmaster in the Cincinnati area over the next few months. How can you find out about these wonderful opportunities? There are open houses held by community clubs during the day and in the evening. There are speech contests going on for motivational, inspirational speeches, and also doing a speech evaluation. To learn more about where these club special events are being held, you can go online to the Google Calendar. Go to the Google website, www.google.com, select Calendar, and in the keyword box, enter in Toastmasters Cincinnati. There you will see a list of dates, times, and special events, and you click on the special event and you can drill down to an advertising flyer to give you more information about where to go, when the event is, how to get there, and a person to contact if you have any questions. So please visit the Google Calendar, keyword Toastmasters Cincinnati, for more information about special club events coming up in an area near you in the Cincinnati metropolitan area. And now we will have our second and third speeches. They'll be done right in a row. First of all, we will start off with Veronica Sanford, who will be later joined by Kormelink. They are both working out of the Special Occasions Advanced Communication Manuals. And we will start off with Veronica Sanford presenting an award for 2007 Toastmaster of the Year to Kormelink. Veronica.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Welcome, Toastmasters, honored guests, and our television audience. Today we will be presenting Toastmaster of the Year Award to one of our club's most honored and generous members. The person selected as Outstanding Toastmaster of the Year is one who takes full advantage of the educational and leadership opportunities available to Toastmasters. This person also shows enthusiasm, dedication, and are sincere in their efforts to help other people. They attend all meetings in a prompt and prepared manner. They serve as officers when asked and promote Toastmasters experience whenever possible. They strive for communication and leadership advancement, as I mentioned already, and compete whenever eligible. They support contests and conferences. They also give speechcraft educational sessions to the general public, youth leadership opportunities given to teens, and they also support training and attend training outside within Toastmasters. Kormelink epitomizes these qualities. She has touched and inspired many, many lives, not just through Toastmasters. She routinely has stepped in to substitute for many roles at the last minute. She has started over 10 clubs, of course, with teams. She has mentored 10 clubs that have already been chartered through the point at which they become successful. She has coached 2 struggling clubs to survive. She has sponsored over 79 members that she knows about. Of course, then they go on and sponsor other members. So there's that ripple effect. The thing that I like most about Carol is her motto is, forget a good deed as soon as you do it. And also, don't take the glory. Carol is also an example in her personal life. She has been married for 52 years to a verbally abusive husband. She didn't leave that husband, as many of us would do. She stayed with that husband so that her son could have a close relationship with his father. Since 2002, she has supported that husband in his decline through Alzheimer's. She has still continued to stay with him and care for him. She has one perfect son and 2 perfect grandchildren. She's very proud of them. She has raised more money for the PTA in her area than anyone else. She was a business manager for 15 years while raising this child. And she has had 2 successful businesses, The Hungry Tiger and Clean Up Your Clutter. So you can see Carol sets an example in both her personal and her professional lives. Please congratulate Carol on winning this prized award from our club. Carol Kormelink.
Thank you, Veronica. That is quite an honor to be chosen Toastmaster of the Year when there are 3,000 Toastmasters in our district. Anytime anyone is getting an award, they did not get there by themselves. They had a team. And one of the things I pride myself on is that I bring out hidden qualities in a person not noticed earlier. I think Gordon was one example. He didn't think that he could be president of this Toastmaster Club, but I did, and he is. Jerome Manigan was one of the area governors when I was the division governor of the year, and I enticed Jerome by my little flyer that said, hard work, low pay, great rewards. Jerome accepted the challenge, and he was one of my best area governors. I had such a great team, and I am fortunate that everything that I have that has come into my life, I have had a great team. Rick was one of my people who helped me quite a bit. I helped him with his speechcraft, and from there went on to help him build clubs and to teach my own speechcraft. And now when people help me, I am able to let them have the credit for that. They have to do some work. They don't just get it handed to them. They have to do some work. In my personal life, many people said, why have you stuck with him? Why put up with that? I hope I don't tear up here. It has really taught me to listen. When we were first married, we might not speak to each other for a month, but I learned that I could be my own person. He could be angry if he wanted to be, but communication is a two-way street. And just because he's not talking to me doesn't mean that I can't talk to him. And I have shared this with other people. One gal at a restaurant, I didn't know her, we struck up a conversation, and she's telling me her husband hadn't spoken to her for several days. And I mentioned communication is a two-way street. And just because he's not talking to you doesn't mean you can't talk to him. And the next day she came back and they were talking. So I have to be cautious that what I'm doing is the proper thing to do because I don't want to lead anyone down the wrong path. And one of the things that helped me, I was a sort of a couch potato, and I like to sit on the floor. I don't know why, but I could not pull myself up. And I asked my husband if he would pull me up. And he said, if you weren't so fat, you'd be able to get up yourself. And I thought, I am not going to be beholden to myself the rest of my life for this. And that sent me to a personal trainer. I am now able to pick myself up off the floor when I'm sitting there. I don't need his help. And I've even had him, I have a personal trainer 2 times a week for him that helps him. And it's a struggle. I have to spend hours getting him ready mentally, physically, for this to have the trainer come. He doesn't want it, but I continued to persist because I know that is better for him and making him stronger, because I want to be able to care for him at home. So this is quite an honor to be recognized for things that I love to do. I talk to people anywhere and tell them about Toastmasters. One lady said, I was just in a grocery store and she started talking to me, and here I am. I am very thrilled to find that hidden talent in people, and it has given me quite a reward. Almost everyone in here has been encouraged to do something they didn't think they could do. And that's one of the things that Toastmaster, we encourage the discouraged. The person that came to Toastmasters, not in my club, but another club that I heard about, she had a death grip on the lectern at her first time to get up to try to speak, and she put her head down and she started crying, and then she walked away and said, I can't do this. And what do you think was the next thing that happened? Everyone clapped. That was such a great effort for her to get up here. We recognize effort. We encourage. This lady, several years later, was in charge of the program chairman for an activity where Mondale, the Vice President Mondale, was the speaker. And she tugged him on the jacket and said, you'll have to sit down. Your time is up. This was a lady when her first one. So we encourage the discouraged at Toastmasters. I think everyone would benefit from Toastmasters. You will grow in Toastmasters. And I like to have it fun, because I think, as Ralph Smedley said, we learn in moments of enjoyment. And I think if you are dragging and you don't feel like coming to this meeting and you aren't energized when you left here, we have failed you, because it should be, oh, I don't have my club is fun. Where's that? Guess I lost it. I don't have that, but it's a lot of fun. And when you come to Toastmasters, you will realize your potential too. Madam Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol, for so graciously accepting the award, and Veronica for wonderfully presenting to Carol that award. The speeches that we have heard from, the speakers that we have heard from so far today have all had quite a bit of experience speaking. They finished the first 10 speeches in the Competent Communicator Manual. But even with all that experience and as polished as their presentations were today, everybody has to start somewhere. You, me, and they started somewhere as well. Our next speaker is only giving her second speech in Toastmasters. It took a lot of encouragement from within and from outside, her club and her family, to do her second speech today. So we are pleased to welcome Mary Arms giving her second Toastmaster speech, Organizing Your Speech, and her title is Unknown Future. Mary Arms, Unknown Future.
Hello, everyone, fellow Toastmasters, guests, and television audience. I, like most Americans, listen to the radio and television, and the only thing I seem to hear lately is the news about the violence that's going on in this strange world, as we call Earth. When I started writing the speech a few days before Christmas, I thought about how many families that are to our future as a country. Families are our future as a country. But there are many families who go without, both gift and food-wise. And then at this time of the year, politicians say they care about the families. But do they? They love to talk about caring for the needs of the children of these families. But when it comes down to their health care needs, many children in this country go without. These parents are really trying to care about them. But when the two adults working full-time job and the job's at minimum wage, they cannot afford to buy health care insurance. They cannot afford to pay for these doctors without health insurance. Is the health insurance of children more important to all of us? Health insurance coverage for our children are important. Actually, it's important for everyone with or without it. Okay, and our society is paying for the suffering and the children with poor mental and physical health. Our study reports that 54% of American children do not have preventive well care coverage. Uninsured children often end up in the hospital emergency rooms for their treatment. Is this most expensive and inefficient for the hospital? Children need preventive care in order to avoid the need for most of their emergency care. One, I believe that our children are our future, and I want our future to be a healthy one. Healthy children are likely to become healthy adults, and healthy adults work and contribute to their communities. I believe that our children are our future, and I want our children to be a peaceful one. Good physical and mental health contribute to peace and tranquility. And I believe that our children are our future, and these future leaders should be well educated. Healthy children are more likely to have a strong education than unhealthy children. It is important for me to talk about the health insurance for all American children and adults. Do you believe, as I do, that our health is worth promoting? And if so, start talking to others about the needs. If we keep talking, we need to find a solution. There are not 1 million families in America. There is not only one family. This is the American family, and we belong all to it. Should all of our children have a healthy future? And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Congratulations on completing your second Toastmaster speech. One of the most important aspects of Toastmasters is not only the experience of table topics and thinking quickly on your feet, or preparing a speech or accepting an award, doing lots of speeches, or only your first 2 speeches. Part of Toastmasters is knowing how well you did and being able to see what others have done to help improve your speaking ability in the future and theirs as well. So now we will have a series of evaluations. Our club meeting will be evaluated, and each of the speakers will also be evaluated. When you were watching TV audience, watching the other speakers, did you see things that they thought they were doing quite well? Are there other things that you saw that maybe that could be improved upon, or that you do yourself and have different ideas? If so, Toastmasters is a great place for you to contribute to others' improvement as well as your own. To give us an idea of how well our club is running today, we have asked our guest from Grand Rapids, Michigan, Doug Swisher, to be our general evaluator. Please welcome Doug Swisher, all the way from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
I suppose I should have been a little bit prepared and asked exactly what the format is for this club, but I'm going to base on my past experience. I think my role is going to be introducing the evaluators for the speakers, and then I'm going to do an evaluation of both the club as well as, or the meeting, as well as each evaluator, to give them some feedback, because that's one of the important aspects, I think, of Toastmasters is evaluations is the way that we encourage people to keep going, and it's a way that we encourage people to improve. And it's important that those evaluations are both helpful in building people up as well as giving them some feedback that allows them to move further. And if we don't do that correctly, we need to fix that. And that's one of the roles of the general evaluator. So our first speaker was Steve, and his evaluator is Verna Gibson. So please welcome up Verna Gibson.
Thank you. Steve, I must say that I enjoyed your speech. I have heard many speeches given by Steve, and they are always well prepared and organized. Steve opened with the idea of salesmanship. So we knew right from the beginning what his speech was going to be about. Promoting something is selling. We are all salesmen. When we promote Toastmasters, we sell Toastmasters. As I said, Steve was well prepared, but I did feel that you relied fairly heavily on your notes. However, this did not detract from your presentation. Steve used vocal variety very effectively with the variation in volume, voice quality, and his intonation. Steve also uses his hands very effectively. He used his hands, but he did not flail his hands about. It appeared that you were really thinking about how you would use your hands most effectively. I also liked your handout, and I liked the fact that it was augmented with stories of personal success. Close as an acronym. That was presented at the right time during the presentation. The acronym was not only unique, but it was simple, and this added to the effectiveness of your presentation, Steve. As I said, you had a good introduction. The body of your speech was well organized. You included personal stories. Now, this was one of the things that I especially liked was your personal stories. I liked the fact that you mentioned Gordon. I liked the fact that you mentioned Carol. Carol should always be mentioned when we have a Toastmaster meeting. Carol is the epitome of the Toastmaster salesperson. Now, Steve, I did feel like you missed out on an opportunity. Right before the meeting started, Steve asked me if I was going to join Toastmasters again. I have been a member of TV Toastmasters in the past. I said, yes, I'm joining. In fact, I brought my checkbook and I pulled it out and started writing out the check immediately. So you could have used that in your presentation. That was a little bit of a missed opportunity. But overall, it was very good. I enjoyed the presentation. One thing that I did think, perhaps the handout on the back was too wordy, and it might have been more effective to use that later so that people were not tempted to read it during the presentation. However, I know you presented it ahead of time, so we did have an opportunity to read that. Steve, I enjoyed your speech. Good job. Thank you.
Our second speaker was Veronica Sanford, and her evaluator is Sheila Baker. So please welcome up Sheila.
Mr. General Evaluator, and Veronica. What a wonderful thing to be able to present Carol Kormelink with an award. Carol Kormelink deserves awards, and it was clear to everyone here that Veronica admired Carol. And Veronica was to present the award with dignity, grace, and sincerity. And Veronica is dignity and grace itself, so that was easy for her. She wanted to work on the sincerity, but it was clear to me that Veronica really does admire Carol and was therefore sincere. And I'm hoping that those of you who are in the audience understood how strongly Veronica feels about the achievements that Carol has, because I watched very carefully to see if Veronica was being as sincere as possible, and I think she showed that. Now, one of the purposes of this speech is to be very clear about the purpose of the award. So I'm going to give a suggestion of what would have made it better. First of all, would have held this award up and let the camera come close and show the award. Then I would talk about the title of the award right up front, so everyone would say, Toastmaster of the Year. Then they'd want to know, well, what do you have to do to be Toastmaster of the Year? Veronica managed to get it all in there, but it wasn't in a way that would grab the attention of the audience and get them to say, wow, this is why she's talking about Carol. She is winning this award. I liked the reasons that Veronica gave, such as honored and generous, enthusiastic, prompt, attends every bit of training, supports, mentors, etc. That was very helpful, going step by step by step. Not everybody who's a Toastmaster does as much as Carol does. In the praise, one of the things that I found was really wonderful in sincerity was that Veronica sounded as if she might cry when she talked about how generous and committed Carol was with her husband. And that is something that I admire very much too. What could have made this speech better? I've already told you. But what I really want to tell you about is what I liked about the speech. It was clear Veronica felt honored to give such a speech. She made that clear in the way she stood, the way she talked. And it was clear that she admired Carol as a person and as a Toastmaster, as a person of commitment, energy, and courage. So when it gets down to it, I want Veronica to give me an award someday. I doubt if I'll get to be a Toastmaster of the Year because I happen to know that Ms. Toastmaster, Carol Kormelink, and Mr. Toastmaster, Joe Schwerling, are in the same room with me. And these are my role models, and I think Veronica is going to end up being Toastmaster of the Year herself someday. Mr. General Evaluator.
Well, it's been mentioned many times. Carol was our third speaker, and her evaluator is Linda Ketchum. So let's please welcome up Linda Ketchum for her evaluation.
Fellow Toastmasters audience. Well, I did it twice in a row. I'm evaluating Carol again this week. I need to watch who I agree to evaluate. The purpose of an evaluation is to give the strengths, the weaknesses, and the acknowledgement. It's sort of a sandwich effect of the good, things that can be improved, and then the good again, to give the person the willingness to give another speech. The difficulty when one is evaluating Carol is finding the area of improvement. I find that very difficult when I evaluate her because she has moved along the progression and is very good at what she does. The purpose of this speech was to accept an award with dignity, grace, and sincerity. Carol did a great job of doing all of that, but even more, the purpose of this speech was to recognize the importance of the work of the organization presenting the award. To me, the strongest elements of this acceptance speech were the importance of this organization known as Toastmasters, which is presenting this award to Carol. That was the area she emphasized in her acceptance. She talked about how proud she was to receive this award in an organization for this area of more than 3,000 people and to be acknowledged as the Toastmaster of the Year. She gave lots of examples of the important work that Toastmasters does. One of the things she emphasized over and over again is looking for the hidden potential in members, as she talked about Gordon and encouraging him to be the president of this club. I'm sure that she has encouraged all of us in some way. I received an encouraging email from her this week. She does this with grace. She does this with dignity. You can tell that she loves this organization, and it came forth in her acceptance speech. When we are honored to receive an award, we do it with grace, dignity, and acknowledging the importance of the organization that we represent. Carol gave us a shining example of how to do all of these things and especially honor the organization that we are representing.
Our third speaker was Mary Ames. Mary's evaluator is Rick Davis. Please, is it? Oh, sorry.
You're good. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. fellow Toastmasters, and studio audience, and audience out in television. I like to read the objectives for each project so that we know exactly what Mary was working on today. The objectives were to select an appropriate outline which allows listeners to easily follow and understand your speech, make your message clear with supporting material directly contributing to that message, use appropriate transitions when moving from one idea to another, and create a strong opening and conclusion. I think she did a great job on her objectives today. I thought she had great enthusiasm. I thought that this is a very enthusiastic speech. You really were passionate about what you were talking about. You kept repeating your points, which sort of drove home the ideas, what you were talking about, what you hoped to accomplish. I thought it was an interesting speech. I thought you had excellent preparation. How could I help you to improve on your next speeches? And part of it is that being a second speech, you have some things that you're going to be working on in the future. But I think a little more eye contact, and especially with the camera, is really important. You want to be able to bring your audience into your speech. So you need to use a lot of eye contact. You need to slow down. You were talking pretty fast, and in order for people to really think about what you're talking about, you just need to slow down. And part of it is having the opportunity to get up here and speak. After a while, you get to the point where you can slow down a little bit. A pause is okay. You don't have to speed through it. The other thing I tell you is tell us a story. If you can put in a personal anecdote, if you can tell us something you've read about, something like that, people really respond well to stories. And so if you can tell us a little story that you can fit into the speech somewhere, I think that really helps people to get excited about what you're talking about. I think it was a great speech. I think you're going to have a great career with Toastmasters, and I look forward to your next speech. Thank you for your speech today. Mr. General Evaluator.
I think last week I was invited through a flyer from Veronica to attend the International Association of Administrative Professionals, where world champion speaker Otis Williams was speaking. And he presented his presentation around the word great. And do you think you have a great club? He uses the word great as a mnemonic, which is maybe a correction for the club, is that word close that Steve had used is actually a mnemonic. And great stands for goal-oriented, results-oriented, excellence-oriented, action-oriented, and time-oriented. And so I'm going to evaluate whether this is a great club or not. Well, what's the goal of a Toastmasters club? We find that on the Toastmasters International website. It's also in the front of your Competent Communicator Manual, and that's the club mission. The mission of a Toastmasters club is to provide a mutually supportive and positive learning environment in which every member has the opportunity to develop communication and leadership skills, which in turn foster self-confidence and personal growth. Did the club succeed with that today? I think it did. There was participation by virtually everybody in the room. I think the only person that was left out was Joe. I can see it from the award that Veronica presented to Carol in terms of that mutual support. So I think for goals-oriented, I think this club is very goals-oriented. Results. The results show up in the table topics as well as the speeches and the evaluations. Table topics, all within time. People knew what to talk about it. These are advanced Toastmasters, so they probably had a little bit of practice with that. I think you're doing a good job in table topics, and you're showing how it can be done. So we did good there. The speeches were all well prepared. Our speakers knew what their goals were for their speeches, and I think they did a good job, so they had good results. And our evaluators did a good job as well. Some of the things that I noticed in the evaluations were that the evaluators talked both to the audience as well as the speaker. And I think that's a good way to make sure that the speaker's included, but also include the audience. It's not a one-way communication, so you did that. I noticed that each of our evaluators also gave both good points and areas where to improve upon. So that was good as well. The only thing that I think of, and perhaps it's just something you've discussed in the club and decided upon, and that is letting the audience know what the objectives of the speech are beforehand. The introductions generally did that, but I guess I'm just used to, and it's my experience of reading the objectives of the speech before the speaker gives it so that the audience knows why that person's giving that particular kind of a speech. Excellence-oriented, I think that just seemed evident to me. The club was well prepared, and I think we had an excellent meeting. Action-oriented, everybody, I think, fulfilled their position. They were ready to do it, and they did a good job as well. Time-oriented, I better make sure that I end on time. I think we had a good timers report. I think people in the club are conscious of time. The one thing that I think was a little bit unusual, because it's presented for television, was we get to start when we're ready to start, as opposed to a typical meeting where we have a start time and we actually start as close to that time as possible. But you're conscious of time, and I'm also conscious of time as well, so I'll turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Laura.
Thank you, Doug, for being our general evaluator and for visiting TV Toastmasters today. We're almost done with our meeting, but we will have more in the future, and a special event that we have coming up is February 9th. This is a few Saturdays from now, the second Saturday of February. We will be having our TV Toastmasters open house. You can find more information about this at the Google Calendar that I had talked about. Put in keyword Toastmasters Cincinnati to find out directions as to where it is, because I have no idea. But I will find out, and you will see me there. You do not have to be on TV if you come. In fact, most of us won't be for that particular meeting. So it would be a great experience for you to come and find out what Toastmasters is if you're not a member, and if you are already a member of Toastmasters, what TV Toastmasters can do for you, and how the format is different from your regular Toastmasters club, and that will give you more speaking experience. Very much for being with us, studio audience, today. Thank you very much for being with us at home today, and now I will turn the meeting back over to our club president, Gordon Kelly. Gordon.
I think I could say a whole lot of things about this meeting today. It was really, to me, it was the best Toastmasters meeting I've ever gone to, and I really appreciated the great way of, I guess, evaluating this meeting. Our next meeting will be held, and I don't know if this was already given or not, in Anderson Township Civic Center, 7850 5 Mile Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45250. Everybody's good? At this time, TV Toastmasters Advanced Club 9523 is closed.